All right, beautiful people. Happy Thursday to you.
Happy day after Juneteenth.
It's still Juneteenth as far as I'm concerned. Up until their Independence Day, even on their Independence Day, I will still be celebrating our Independence Day.
Oh, you're talking about July? Yeah.
We don't even want to acknowledge it, okay?
We'll be gone for a while. We got at least 2 good weeks.
And we literally just go for the entire year. Honestly, every day is Juneteenth. But that's really... Shout out to the ancestors. Shout out to I Gotta Do It. This has nothing to do with anything we're talking about today. But I have to. We are avid, staunch, devoted Kendrick Lamar stands around here. So I would be remiss if I did not say thank you to the King. Thank you to everybody that participated yesterday. Tommy the Clown came out. Battle Zone is back. Shout out to Charm LaDonna, this everybody, okay? The coast is up. I know this was literally a concert for the diss tracks, but it really wasn't about that, okay? It was really about the culture, Black unity,
West Coast unity.
West Coast thing.
That was crazy.
I feel like Pac wanted to come down. I feel like Nipsey wanted to come down. We could just feel everybody's presence and energy. So thank you.
I went to the T-Pain concert.
Two separate things. We live streamed at the house, but go ahead.
I went to the T-Pain concert at the Hollywood Bowl.
Shout out to Pain and him.
Which was lovely. Shout out to Miss Erin Horton for getting me some tickets for that. She knows I love a good concert. And it was amazing. I think I became a T-Pain fan.
Pain's a good time.
He is.
He has a residency in Vegas also.
We like to promote. He seems to be a lovely young man, as the old people will say. So I enjoyed it very much. But it was a good mix of old and young. It was
because D Smoke was there, which I know he was sick that he couldn't be at the forum, but
I think he left because
there's no way.
There was
time.
I was like,
D Smoke.
He probably he might have been there before then because he came on late. But it was Lettucey, it was Layla Hathaway, it was Tina from Mary. I mean, it was a
Tevin Campbell,
Duran. It was just a lovely curated night, and I heard that T-Pain did the curation, so I would go again. It was so good. I bought a T-shirt, so there you go.
Hello,
when y'all see me in my T-Pain T-shirt, don't judge me.
First of all, no one's gonna judge you. No one's gonna judge you. Okay, and when you purchase the merch, it's real. If it's in your budget. Ooh, look at the segue. So if you're new here, we are having a series of topics. Okay, we're 6 months into the year. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But if you clicked on this, we're talking about the monies today. Don't get nervous. We're not trying to step on your toes. This is an assessment that we're doing.
Absolutely.
And we said, we should bring it to the people too. Okay, remember, we are not. We're like not shamans, experts, whatever. We're the people who are on the journey with you, right? We're not the people who are like, we're gonna talk at you. Like, we doing this too. Okay. So if you've been here for a minute, cool. If you're new here, welcome. Listen, we're talking about all things financial health today. If that sounds like you, someone or y'all want to watch it all together, however you do what it is that you do. It's the day after Juneteenth. You might have spent a little bread, a little bit more than you were anticipating, but you did it for the ancestors, and that's what matters the most. So with that, if this sounds like something you're interested in and want to hear about, you stick around because this episode is for you.
Hi, I'm Pam Williams, a mother.
And I'm Jessica E. Williams, a daughter. And this is a mother and a daughter truthful chat, where we discuss our 35-year multi-layered relationship.
We've been through so many ups and downs. Not only are we family, but we're business partners in the high-stress world of event planning and production for short films.
We've also shared the same therapist for over 10 years. What some people call codependence, we call collaboration.
So join us as we share stories from our lives,
have candid conversations with other mother-daughter duos,
and shed light on the roller coaster ride of being a woman while raising a woman.
I just want to point out Kendrick Lamar Duckworth is in that intro. Okay. That was when we were at the championship tour in 2018. So we're not new to this. We're true to this.
I knew you were going to say
Anywho, welcome You still done turned it the wrong way, but it's
because okay. I am not left-handed. Okay, if you want to see
don't be an ableist, okay? The left-handed people need cups too.
So there we go. I'm gonna sip, and you can see I have the same logo.
Tell us what you did for Juneteenth in the comments. Tell us what you're sipping on. Okay. Sorry, okay. This is tonic. You see, it just got me in the throat.
This is sparkling water with lime.
Wow, there you go. So unenthusiastic. Welcome to Truthful Chats, huh? If you've been here for a minute again, welcome back. Welcome back. You know you like that. And it's really like that, huh? And if you're new here, Truthful Chats is our weekly podcast series where we just talk. We chatting. It's in the name. We having chats, okay? Back and forth, to and fro, et cetera, et cetera. And it's under our overarching banner called Create Generational Wellness. So at Create Generational Wellness, we have a theme of the month. And then on Truthful Chats, we just unpack that theme a little bit under various topics, subjects, and things of that nature. If you've never heard of the term Create Generational Wellness, welcome. It's our term. So if you hear anybody else out in the streets using it and it has nothing to do with Truthful Chat, Pam or Jess, or any of the people that have been on this show, then you think the Bay gonna let you disrespect Pop? Just don't let them disrespect
Lord.
The brand, right? And the podcast. Anyway, if you clicked on this video, then you should know a few things. Okay. Our theme for the month is reset. We're talking about that all June. It's 6 months into the year. Okay. We got all, sometimes everybody gets resolution excited.
You start off well.
Happy. You start off well.
Running your race.
By right in here, you be like, oh, Jesus, we need to have a discussion, or whoever it is that you believe in. We need to have a discussion about the remainder of the year. So we thought it's good to stop and evaluate. So reset is the theme of the month. And if you clicked on this, it's reset your budget, which I don't even want to start this with any sort of negativity. Okay. Money is money is money. Okay. It is a tool given to us. It is a tool created by certain people of certain hues and certain entities to control us, but it's a necessary tool. Okay. I'm not going to say that it's evil. I'm not going to say that it's bad. It's just a thing like any other things, hammers, guns, knives, forks. It's a tool. It's something to be used. And some people use it well. Some people do not. Some of it is put to good use. Some of it is put to diabolical and evil means. I don't know which side of the scale that or it's diabolical evil means that you then turn into something positive. Okay. Shout out to the crack era. Anyway, and trap music and all the things in between. Okay. And that has to do with
the wealth of the wicked,
the melanin, and the most.
Listen, speaking of the wealth of the wicked, I'm on this little prayer journal journey here, and I opened it, and it didn't go to the day that I am on. It opened to another day today, day 37.
You have to keep in mind. Let me just say this: Pammy is a former Sunday school teacher and former Sunday school director. So just calm down. It's not going to be that serious.
I'm not going to preach.
Oh my God, Bible, scripture. Just relax.
No.
Take a deep breath.
It's really short. So today,
I'm just giving you, this is librarian book. I'm going to read to the children energy. That's what you're getting right now. Go ahead. Read your scripture.
Listen, it says, conquer the giant, the principle of budgeting. And it's just a really simple scripture. It says, plan ahead, clothing, food, mortgage, giving. It's from Proverbs 21:20. The wise have wealth and luxury, but fools spend whatever they get. All right. So good planning, hard work lead to prosperity, but hasty shortcuts lead to poverty. I'm sure our guest is going to talk about that a little bit more today.
And let's say, okay, listen, because that felt a little, I felt like, I heard people be like, it's a little negative. You got to think of the Bible though. Sometimes they're like, we try to put you on game. We're not telling you what to do necessarily always. Everything is always a command, unless it says this, I command you. This more like, you got to think of like God as the OG that's trying to put you on game. You ain't got to take the game, but you can. Like, it's just.
And if you read Proverbs, all the game is in.
There's
a lot of game in Proverbs.
They putting you up on game. Okay,
you can read one every day and get.
If you're open to receiving it. With that being said, we're not saying that you shouldn't buy the things that you want or desire. Well, we're just saying it shouldn't be at the expense of what you need to be doing. It's just responsibility. That's all we're talking about.
Responsibility, accountability, all those things.
Anyway, this isn't our expertise because, but we did bring. We be trying, but we did bring our dear friend and someone.
I've been studying with Dionna for years. I still haven't got it straight.
And someone that we know that's not new to this. They're true to this. They're about that life. They're not like us, okay? When it comes to the budgetary means, we own it, okay? And I'm sure she's living an abundant lifestyle because of it, okay? It's just principles. It's just certain things you put in place when you want to go to a next level. So inflation is real. Post-Panini is real. Gas, it's okay. They could be better. So, and you still got to eat, so they say. So, anyway, today we have our incredible friend, sister in Christ, know her from church, known her for years. We're going to let her brag on herself. But anyway, start clapping, not now, but right now, for Mrs. Sorry. Put some respect. Mrs. And shout out to my bro. Okay. Mrs. Dionna Scales. Hi. Welcome. First of all, cups up. Right way. Yes, cup. Bing, clink. Virtual clink. Welcome to the show. What are you drinking?
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Are you drinking water? What are you drinking?
Just water, yeah.
Hydration. We talk about a lot on this show. It's very important.
I'm trying to do better.
We all are. That's the point. We all are.
We are all trying to do better in some things. Sometimes in a lot of things. But
well, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
So tell us. We know you're a budget extraordinaire, okay? But the people might not know. They just don't know who you are. So you want to give you an opportunity to brag on yourself, share some things with the people that will be applicable to why you're an expert on said subject matter.
Yeah, absolutely. So my career background for about 18 years has been in HR, learning and development, diversity and inclusion, recruiting, and professional career coaching. And I started this career coaching practice, but at the same time, I was also getting into personal finance. I was listening to all these podcasts. I was figuring out my own personal finances. And I had to, right? Because I didn't make all the money that I wanted. And so I had to get my life together in that space. And so I was getting more and more excited about personal finance. And I was doing my own budgets and loving it. As weird as that sounds.
Yes.
The more that I got into personal finance for myself, the more I wanted to take kind of that coaching background and help other people with it. And so several years ago, I got certified as a financial coach, did hours and hours of training. I've also taught classes in this space about budgeting, getting out of debt, saving, all the things. And I also do one-on-one coaching. So I have several coaching clients now that I'm kind of walking through the different seasons that they're in with their own finances. So I am excited to be here. I love talking about this stuff. Budgeting is my happy place. And I tell people that loud and proud.
Come on, loud and proud. Yes. I love that. I heard credentialed coaching, okay? One-on-one. So, we like to give you the resources beyond the conversation, okay? So we'll make sure that after this, your information is made available to the people that you feel like dealing with, okay? Because some of y'all think y'all ready, you do, and then people be like, you should cut back on this. He'd be like, wait, but I no. So you gotta, like anything else, we'd be like, get your little journal, talk about where you are financially, write about your feelings, and then wait till you get to a place where you're ready to make change. Don't have Dionna call us talking about, some people from the podcast, but they was very upset, and we'd be like, because you didn't do your work prior to. Anyway, so we got a few questions for you. These are just things I was wondering because I'm not really, my relationship to money is just maybe it's the Gemini in me. I don't know. I'd be like, it's cool. Like it's cool.
But I think that's important. Relationship to money.
My relationship to money is
yes.
That's what gets most people, right?
When I have it, I have it. When I don't, I don't. And then I act accordingly. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It all starts with what our mindset is, or our relationship to money, and kind of how we grew up dealing with it, or how our family dealt with it or didn't deal with it. And all of that plays into how we approach money today.
I love it. And I'm an artist, so sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not. Okay, so let's get into the first question. Is there like a historical, like a history of budgeting, or like a mother or father of the budgeting movement? Like, I just don't know. Like, when I thought about it, I was like, who was the first person to be like, we need to do, like, I don't know if someone's credited to this, or is it just like once we decided we was going to start bartering and then eventually turn into coins, then that's just how budgeting happened. I was just curious. Is there anything? Can you enlighten us on that?
Well, because I'm super saved, and because just grew up in the church, my answer would have been Miss Pam's scripture. It came from the Bible. Jesus is the Sunday school answer.
Jesus.
However, it actually started kind of more formally in a place where you wanted to start, which is government. And so back in the 1700s, in the English Parliament, they were trying to make sure that the king didn't overtax the people. And so it was like, no, you have to have a plan for how you're going to spend this money so that we don't take too much from the people, or have to keep asking, or have to keep taxing them.
Sorry, say again.
So there was a plan for how to spend the money of the people first. That's how it started. Okay.
Yes, the money of the people. In the U.S., we adopted it later, obviously. And then it's in our government, and then it was expanded to businesses. And around the same time, this idea of budgeting for businesses started. People are also looking at their own personal finances. There was a book. So, I mean, obviously you can track planning your spending back centuries, but in the US, there was a woman, actually, shout out to women starting stuff, who wrote a book about, it's called The Cost of Living. And she wrote it in the early 1800s. And it was all about household expenses and planning your household expenses. And so I think that's the official answer, but I think Jesus is probably a good enough answer too.
God talks about managing your money correctly, which we would call for the church. So however, all the things I was looking to hear: England, government. At some point, they cared about the people, sort of, until they didn't.
Right.
Taxes, all the things we know. Like some of the things they taught us in American history track, a lot of it does not, though. Or there's like something else to it too, but they just didn't necessarily tell you that part.
Exactly.
Okay. And shout out to a girl in the 1800s, because at that time women were only managing households. Just want to remind everyone of that. So there was, you couldn't be opening any kind of accounts or nothing. Whatever you were given was what you was gonna manage, and then you gotta in these kids and whatever else is available to you. So you gotta make it do what it do. So to hear that a woman was about the budgeting makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, we weren't even allowed to have our own accounts and stuff like that until the 1900s.
Now, mind you, I want to say,
and by we, I mean women.
Right.
Yes. Not Black people.
Right. Right.
That's all
we have a whole other history.
That was a luxury of white women. Okay.
Right.
We're not even considered humans. I think.
We had that coin purse like right in here with that money in it.
Or a couple jars where if Massa was giving you some money,
coffee
you might have some to buy your freedom or whoever else freedom, et cetera, et cetera. But we won't. Y'all know. Go back and watch the February episodes. We went into all of this. Anywho,
I have a question. So, just in terms of budgeting, like for me, I think this is a trauma response, but I think in my mind growing up, the only time I heard my family talk about money was when they were arguing about money. So for me, I'm just realizing this right now. I think I have a negative connotation kind of if we're going to talk about a budget, there is going to ensue an argument or a conversation. So can you talk about how to turn the idea of a budget from a negative thing into a positive thing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the first things that we have to do is we have to recognize and call out what our relationship, our attitude is toward money. And the fact that you said, you know, growing up, there was a connotation toward money because of the way you grew up. I think that's true for most of us, meaning like because of the way we grew up, now we see money in a certain way. And so I think recognizing it and calling it out and giving it a name and acknowledging that is the first thing that we have to do. And then I think second, it's figuring out like, well, who do I want to be now? Then if I've acknowledged who I am because of my background, who do I now want to be? And so for me, because there was we didn't talk about money either, really, other than we don't have money to do that. So for me, it was, I just didn't talk about money. I didn't really have to be very mindful about it or plan around it. And so I had to decide the person that I wanted to be was not somebody who stuck their head in the sand. Because for the longest time after I was making some money after I graduated from college and had a steady paycheck, I would just swipe and not really be looking at the account, and then would get scared one day and, you know, let's hope I don't overdraft, and had to realize that, okay, I don't want to be that person anymore. I want to be the person who faces it head on, who actually creates a plan around their money. And so I'd say acknowledging it and kind of identifying what your attitude is, and then deciding who you want to be now, and then figuring out, okay, well, what do if this is who I want to be, what do I need to do? What are the actions that I need to take in order to be who I want to be? And that's where I come in oftentimes, is helping people to line up their actions with what they say they want, what their vision is.
That's so good.
Love the practicality of that, but you have to do the emotional work, which we'll talk about. And we're all about that on this podcast, obviously. But so many of the skills that we've constantly been talking about over the last year, some change, y'all have known us, actually apply, I think, to this particular process we're talking about before you meet with someone like Dionna, like to just have that moment in time. Like Pam said, like, what is my relationship to money? Like, am I sad after I spend money? Like, I'm the person who I could be in the store and I see something, I'm like, I really like that. I will wait until we've gone around the store. Like if I'm still thinking about the shoes right before we check out, then I'm like, okay, I'm cool. I get it. I'm not an impulse nothing, except maybe for concert tickets. But like, I'm not an impulse nothing. I'll be like, nah, I'm good. But if I really feel it, then I'll do it. So that brings us to, what is a budget? Okay. If you're not knowing, and why is it important to have one? And do you advise having multiple budgets for the various parts and aspects of your life? I think sometimes people hear budget, they just think like one thing that applies to everything. But I was like, but you spend money in a lot of different places on a lot of different things. So you might need to have multiple budgets, multiple streams of income, multiple budgets.
Yeah. So the basic definition that I use for budgeting is a budget is a spending plan. And life costs money, so you're going to spend it anyways. You might as well have a plan for how you're going to do it. I also use that language because some people hear budget and they automatically get stressed out, or they hear budget and they hear, I can't do what I want to do. And it's really restrictive for them. And so I like to call it a spending plan, first of all, which is really just for some people, it's for the month. how am I going to use the money this month that I'm receiving? I started actually doing and advocating for a paycheck budgeting plan. So for this paycheck, how am I going to spend it? What bills are due? What do I want to save it on? You know, that kind of thing. And so you align your values with how you're going to spend your money. My values might be that I value paying my bills on time. I value travel, and I value saving for an emergency right now. And so that's how you align your spending plan or your budget for how you're going to spend your money. To answer your question, Jess, about do you have multiple budgets? The answer is maybe, depending on what's going on in your life. So if you have a side business, your business might have a budget. For us, we try to do everything in cash. Obviously, we bought our house with a loan, but for everything else, for the most part, we do in cash. So if we're going on a trip, we're planning on going to Mexico next month, and the trip has a budget. You know, when I know we're going to get some extra money for something, like a bonus or something like that, then I give that money a job. I give it a budget or a spending plan, so that it's not just sitting around tempting me, or so that it's not going to waste on silly things that don't align with my values or aren't in line with the goals that I have.
I love it. Aligning with the values. That's crucial.
I think
because I think your money
month last year talking about values. Your values and how you define your values and what they are. So to now hear you say that you align those values with your money is really, really important. And like Jess said, that's work you have to do before you get to this work. So if you don't know what your values are, you know, you'll spend your money on anything and everything because none of it has a particular importance to you or significance, or like you said, a job to do. Your money doesn't have a job to do. It's not going somewhere. I love that.
Or you think you are, or you're putting value monetarily on something you might not even value.
Yeah, that you don't even care about.
Yeah, like me and my therapist talk about that all the time. Like he was like, you can't imagine. Like I was spending money on stuff that like I was flossing for other people. It wasn't even nothing I cared about. He's like, then I reevaluated and I was like, I don't really care about that. Like this is more important to me. But you know, flex culture, spending, like flashing, like that becomes
IG culture.
Certain people's mindset, and you're like, I don't even care about these people. I don't even know them like that. Like, why am I, you know, doing all that? And I like the fact that you said, I was like, dang, I might change the name of this episode. Because budget is a scary word for a lot of people, but I think, or it feels restrictive or restraining, as opposed to being like, I am planning what I'm doing for this paycheck based on my values and how I prioritize said values. It's not saying that if you really want that new pair of shoes, like go get it, like you value that, but don't let it get in the way of the other things that are also important priorities in your life, which is cool. So thank you. That was very simple. I love it. I'm not, this is nice. I don't feel scared. Like I was like, I don't know.
It's so scary. It's fun.
I don't feel intimidated. This was very nice. It's very kind. I feel like if we was
having this anxious about it.
I don't know that I was anxious. I was just like, well, you know, it's a budget. Like we'll see. Like, you know, our goals. It could be cool. People could be into it, but it feels like, okay, I could breathe talking about this. So we've been through, we are in our 4th year outside of the pandemic, Panini, Pandarosa, Miss Rona and them, which I just want to say those things are still out there. I just don't think we don't care as much. The monkeypox, all that, it's like the boogeyman, unless you're certified boogeyman, okay? It's out there, but we're not thinking about it. But during that time, we received some stimmies, some things happened economically that like kind of threw us sort of out of whack. Super grateful for that time, though, because it was great. I miss it. But now we're in an inflation period. So can you talk about like where we were sort of before all that happened and like what is the aftermath and how can we'll get to the inflation part, but can you talk about what were we looking like before the pandemic, during the pandemic, and what are we living in now? Just to get people.
Yeah. So before the pandemic, there were a lot of things I think we just took for granted. But also, you know, companies might have been experiencing a lot of growth. And then during the pandemic, we all know so many people lost their jobs. It was followed by a lot of inflation, right? And things they didn't go down in price. So the things that we're buying didn't get cheaper at any point. It's just we still needed to buy them. And some people just didn't have jobs anymore, right? Like there was so many companies laying people off. And a lot of people just got behind on bills. And so they went into debt in a lot of ways. It's since, you know, as we've gotten further away from the core of the pandemic, you're not seeing companies bouncing back in the same way that they may have in the past. And so they didn't go back and say, okay, great, now that the pandemic is over, we're going to hire all these people back. That didn't happen. They're just operating more lean. And so I think people are still trying to catch up. Now you also have companies having to, when they post their jobs, they have to post how much they're going to get, what the pay range is too. And so I just don't think that their companies are paying the same way that they did before. And I think I saw the statistic that 1.8 million women left the workforce during the pandemic, just left it. And so you have fewer people bringing home a paycheck, a traditional kind of paycheck in that way. And so what I'm assuming that means is that families are working on, they're bringing in less than they made before. And so they're having to, in some cases, do more with less. And so today we're having to figure it out, where some people are still digging themselves out of a hole of debt. And some people are even entering into the workforce, not making as much money as they would have hoped. And then also people are coming out of school with debt. And it's just a lot that we're facing. And we have to do more with less, right? Like we hear about inflation every day.
It's interesting that you say that, because I think we knew why that many women left the workforce, because they probably have children to take care of. And I think when it comes to, you know, our community specifically, a lot of single Black women who had multiple jobs, you know what I mean? Where it's like now, either one or two of those things got cut off, or all of them got cut off. I'm sorry. And then again, like you're saying about people like falling behind. Like I remember when they have like a couple like rent moratoriums, and like there were like all stuff for people, but then
it came
back. Yeah,
like a tidal wave. And so I think I agree with you in that companies are trying to catch up, people are trying to catch up, but also like you said, companies are just not paying what they used to. And so how do you maintain your livelihood and the things that not only that you like or that you're used to, but just basic survival things. You know what I mean? I don't think people are out here being selfish or greedy or trying to do the most. I think they're just doing we just trying to do the bake, like the eggs we were buying before. We just trying to buy those. And that's crazy. You know what I mean? Or the milk or the bacon, you know, whatever the thing is. I don't even think people are trying to do the most. So I feel like sometimes that stuff is out of our hands, right? In terms of like, we don't set the price for things. We just be like, we just need to eat and get gas and come to these little jobs that y'all want us to come to, which maybe we'll have an entrepreneurship conversation too. Cause I was like, I just think in the pandemic, I think our brain, like I'm a person who's always an overthinker anyway. And I'm always like trying to break things down and just think, but I think people who are just sort of on autopilot, a lot of the way that they were used to life going, all of that really broke apart. And then people had to be like, wait, what is the system we're under? And what are these things that we've been agreeing to do?
No,
in our best interest?
Yeah, I was going to say that too, that I think so many of us, especially people of color, but especially women of color, also realize that I was going into the office yesterday and dealing with back then, dealing with microaggressions and having a code switch and having to talk about my hair when I didn't feel like it and all the things. And they realized during the pandemic when they were at home, where I don't have to deal with this crap is in my house. And so there was a shift for so many of us around like what we were willing to accept and endure, really, for our own mental health, and what we weren't willing to accept and endure. And I think that's why a lot of people left the workforce too, because they said, I can go do something entrepreneurial, or I'm willing to take a step back so that I don't have to fight every day like this.
All my life.
Exactly.
Hello, but we gonna be all right. We gonna be. That was a very spiritual moment in the show. Yeah, I think you're right. And again, we saw these corporations make all these promises, but if you've been in America for any length of time, white supremacy or the system, talk is really cheap, or very short-lived. So I agree with you. I think it's again to values. I think people started being like, what do I value, and what am I willing to compromise on for money, and what am I not willing to compromise on for money? And I don't think people realized they had a choice until they was like, oh, all y'all stuff, like all your stuff shut down. So now I get to think about what I actually want in my life, in my kids' life, in my family's life. Like, what do we actually value? Which I think is cool. So thank you for that.
I think that is part of one of the questions we had about how does money, the lack of money, the lack of having a spending plan, the anxiety around that, how do you see that affecting the emotional?
Well, before that, can we just do you have any tips about inflation specifically? And then we'll anything that if I'm one of those people who either quit my job or left, like, you won't break my soul. Like, I just listened to Beyonce. Like, I was like, I can't, you know what I mean? I'm trying to be free. So, but that being said, still trying to play catch up while dealing with inflation. Like, do you have any like quick tips for somebody who's like, that's me, I'm over here drowning, Dionna Scales, please help me? And then
so practically I'd say, honestly, my answer to everything is make a plan. And so there's your warning. So if you are feeling stress, anxiety, oftentimes making a plan will overcome half of that, because you know exactly what the next steps are. Sometimes our anxiety comes from just the lack of knowing or feeling like things are out of our control. And so make a plan. What that could look like financially with regard to overcoming inflation is pay attention to how much things cost. Figure out what you need. Every time you're going to sit down and do your budget, whether it's weekly or monthly or whatever, what are you going to need for that week or that month or those 2 weeks? And how much is that going to cost me? Can I get away with doing a cheaper version of it? And then also, I also suggest that when people start budgeting creating spending plans, that they do an inventory of where's your money going today? And could it not? Could you adjust that based on like getting rid of subscriptions that you don't need, or eating out less, or whatever the things are?
Subscriptions are killer. They are. Yeah. They're like little Pac-Man.
And because it's designed for you,
eat your money up.
Yeah, because it's designed for you not to think about it. Like, it just goes, and you're like,
exactly. And then they go up in price without telling you sometimes. So it's just you get this lifestyle creep without even paying attention to it or having to pay attention to it. And so do a little bit of an audit of your finances to see if there's anything that you can cut to make up for some of the increases in some other areas. And then just plan. We plan for everything. My mom's birthday is June 6th every year. Christmas is December 25th every year. It doesn't change. And I know I'm getting that woman a birthday present, and so I have to plan for that if I know it's coming. And so figure out what you need to plan for. And then also for some of us, we got to get a little bit creative. I've heard of people doing like a share on like Costco goods. So like 2 people need the same item at Costco. One of us will go and get it at Costco and then just split the cost and split the food or whatever it is. For me, for a season, I was saying, this is before I got lazy, but I was like, I don't care about fancy pepper. I'm gonna go to the 99-cent store and get pepper or get those items that I really don't care about the brand, because I can just get it cheap there. But it also meant that I was like going to 99-cent store, going to Trader Joe's, going to Ralph's, or whatever. And so if you can do that, great. And just kind of figure out, pick and choose where you're going to spend the money if you're going to spend a little bit more on it.
Pick and choose. I think that's the thing. Like, there is planning and you have choice within your planning. Like, it's not like you got to sacrifice everything and bleed everything dry and cut everything. It's just, here's the plan and what are the things that I'm willing to fundamentally either sacrifice or just make a slight change on, but all of it sounds like freedom of choice, which I feel like is always an empowering thing, instead of just being like, oh, I can't.
I always say that about our therapist. Like, that is a non-negotiable in my life. Like, I'll figure out everything else around.
Because it's a value. Like,
I value that. So I'm going to make sure something else might have to go or this might have to go, but that I'm going to try. Yeah.
Okay, now we're on to, what is the link or connection between your money and your mental and emotional health? I think we've talked about it. Anxiety, stress, but like, I think money is a stressor for the majority of people. And that either one or two things are happening. Your emotional and mental health is affecting your money, or your money is affecting your mental and emotional health. Or are they doing both at the same time? I guess it just depends
exactly.
But anything you want to speak, any wisdom to that?
Yeah, depending on the person, it could be that, like, I know for me, for a season when I felt like, man, I don't have nothing. You could look at your bank account and know that you don't have anything. And that would actually make me sad, or, it would take me to a place where I felt down. And I think that's true for some people. I think some people spend emotionally. I was talking to somebody the other day. Oh, I was feeling down, so I did this, and this. I bought this thing, and so that's spending emotionally. And for some of us, that's not healthy. I don't know if it's healthy for anybody, but for some of us, that's not sustainable, I should say. And I think that for some people, there's fear attached to how they look at money. So a fear of not having anything. My husband, if our bank account drops to a certain level, he starts to getting itchy. And I'm like, we not broke. We just put the money where it was supposed to go. We gave the money a job, but he just seeing low numbers, like, it gets him, right? There's a fear or anxiety attached to that. And then there are some people who have a fear of spending any money because of the way they grew up, or because they don't want to make the wrong decision, or whatever it is. And so, there could be a lot of emotions attached to money or because of money. And again, I think planning helps with that, but I also think that kind of figuring out and knowing yourself, and to try to avoid some of those emotions is also possible.
You're saying my favorite. Give the money a job. Okay, give the money a job, something to do. Someone said money is the best employee. Money don't get sick. Money don't take no days off. Money don't deal with death, lack, famine, nothing. Money can always be working.
But it still goes back to what you said about having a plan.
Facts.
Yeah. You have to have a plan to give the money an assignment, and
based on your values.
My husband is like your husband about that number. If it goes, look, listen, he's not gonna buy water. He'll be like, drink that water out the tap. You know what I'm saying? It'll be whatever. So I totally get that of understanding how you can get into that mind space. Whereas I am in the kind of a mind space, and people on the podcast have heard me talk about this before, but because my mom died so quickly and so suddenly, I'm of the mindset that life is short. It is not promised to you. So all that budgeting and planning you do, you could drop dead tomorrow, you know? So I have to balance that out with what is reality versus, you know, I don't want to be so inflexible that I'm not able to go and enjoy a concert or whatever.
Inflexible to the point of delusion. And vice versa.
So that's hard. That's a hard place, you know.
And I think, you know, it's the thing we always talk about on here, right? Like, this is where we would say, talking to a trained, licensed mental health professional might be great, because maybe your husband and your kids don't want to hear all these stories, okay, about you and your past family relationships, the money. Like, there's someone that you could pay that will listen to all of this.
You can pay Dionna.
You can pay Dionna for an hour, okay, or whatever the time frame is. That's the job. The job of your money in this scenario is, can we get to the bottom of my relationship with money? Why do I feel like this when I spend money or get money, or it never feels like it's enough, or I have all the money and I don't feel anything? Like, wherever you fall on the spectrum, right? There are experts and people and places that you can go to get help. But I do think you can't separate your money from, I would say, your person or your emotions. Like, it's all a part of you. The money is an extension of you as a person. So whatever you value, whatever you're afraid of, whatever you do, like, that's going to come out in the purchases or lack thereof, or you're going to be super tight with the budget, or maybe doing too much, you know what I mean? Or other people not doing enough, however you want to look at it. But I think all of it is still related to you as a person, knowing yourself well enough to know why you're taking said actions that you're doing or not taking, or how you're planning or how you're not planning. But again, I think it still takes a minute for you to have to sit down to be like, let me examine this. Let me work through this. I know we talked about this at the top of the episode, but
wait, I have a question before we go past that. So I know how long have you and Keith been married now?
It'll be 7 years in March.
Dang, 7 years. I know, right?
I mean, for me, I was just at the ceremony.
So yeah, seems like just yesterday. But let me ask you a question about this, because, you know, you hear, again, going back to our Christian upbringing, you hear about being unequally yoked and people not being the same. Were you and Keith kind of in the same place about money? Did you guys have the same mindset about money when you first got together and got married, or did you have to make a lot, big adjustments, little adjustments, any adjustments?
We were in similar places. So we were both trying to get out of debt. I was working an actual plan to do it. And Keith just kind of wasn't sure how he was going to do it, because it was just a lot of money. We both didn't want to go into more debt. And so we said, for our wedding, we're not going into debt over one event on one day. We're just not going to do it. So we were on the same page.
One more time for the people in the back. Just for the people in the back.
Yeah, you know, it's one day, and we weren't trying to flex. We weren't doing anything. We made the decisions that were important to us and left anything else alone.
Your ceremony was beautiful.
Thank you.
It doesn't have to be
because you knew what you valued as individuals, and two people come together, and therefore it was a day that was reflective of that. But again, you needed to be doing your own personal work.
Exactly.
And then be able to communicate that with said person. Just
exactly. And so we were on the same page in terms of attitude, in terms of approach. We were doing different things, and there was a little bit of a struggle in the beginning of like, I feel sorry for anybody who's with me, because they got to deal with like, I'm a super planner when it comes to money and budgeting specifically. Keith was tracking his spending after the fact and calling it budgeting. And so this is the hill I will die on.
That again.
That is not budgeting.
Tracking your spending is not budgeting.
No. That's just keeping it spreadsheet. And so I was like, I do it this way. And he's like, I do it that way. And we're like, well, we just decided to keep doing both of them when we got married. And then he realized that my way was better.
And you didn't even have to fight about it. You just let him come to that revelation on his own.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything ain't got to be a struggle. It ain't got to be a struggle.
Yeah, but we had talked about all of this stuff. We went through a marriage prep class where they actually had a class where you had to sit down and talk about money, and you had to put together a mock budget for when you were married. So there weren't surprises in that way. And we even now, like, we just don't argue over money because we know what we knew what we were getting into.
Sounds like there's so much freedom in that.
Yeah.
Because proper preparation prevents poor performance. Okay, as an OG.
Love it.
Mm-hmm. Shout out to Kendrick yet again. Okay, so saying that's a great segue. We talked about this earlier, but in terms of the negative or possibly relationship to money as it relates to your family history, I'm sure you guys talked about that hopefully in the premarital situation. And did you guys have to overcome any negative cycles around money? How did you guys do that? What do you advise your clients around that? Because I think that probably dictates a lot of people's personal struggles around this.
Yeah. One of the things I advise them is to talk about it, because so many of us just don't talk about money. So talk about it. Don't let it be a taboo subject. As a matter of fact, sit down and have it be a monthly meeting that you have with your spouse or your partner or whatever. Keith and I used to do more of like sit down at the beginning of the month and figure out where things are going. Now that our budget's a little bit more stable, we really only sit down and like talk about it when I know a bonus check is coming in, or we have some decisions to make. We only have X amount of money, but we have several things that are happening. What are we going to do? That kind of thing. So talk about it. Another way to overcome it is just to have a plan. And so we decided, for example, that right now our values are paying down this house, this mortgage, saving at some point in the next few years. I'm going to need a new car. So saving for that, and being as generous as we can. So when we had that conversation in advance, so that when extra money comes in, we know exactly what to do with it. It does not have to be a conversation every time. We don't need to be tempted to nitpick over it or fight over it or whatever. We talked about it in advance, and now we're just going to work the plan now. Beyond that, I'd say some fights about money are not money fights. They're marriage fights. And the conversation is not, we disagree over how we're going to handle the money. It's, no, y'all just don't know how to communicate. And if you solve that, that'll help with money and anything else that you're struggling with, or many of the other things that you're struggling with. And so I think for some couples, it's recognizing that that the money is like not the real issue here. And the other thing I'd say too is have a philosophy in your marriage about whose money is it. So for us, it's our money. No matter who brings it in, it's our money. There is no Keith's money and Dionna's money. And so we both have an equal say on, what we're going to do with it. It's our household funds. And so we also don't fight about stuff, I think, because we have that attitude that it's not mine anyways. I don't get to have an attitude about you spending money because it's our money.
A whole sermon series in itself.
Ooh,
okay.
Yeah.
A whole sermon series in itself. Now, I want to say this. That's in a marital context, but if you got a roommate, okay, mainly it's communication. Okay, it's communication.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You're communicating about money, maybe, or some other things. Either way, a professional or a third-party arbitrator or whoever, it's just a communication issue. Okay, don't make it bigger than it has to be. Don't be talking about people's mamas and it's just a communication issue. Like
that is so.
Sometimes people just be doing the most, and you're right. And I think that's very clear about having. It's like a constitution. maybe poor choice of words, but a philosophy.
I like it.
This is the stance for
an arrangement, an
agreement
yeah.
about how this goes. And that a marital context is very different than having roommates, but whatever. But the thing is, you still gotta talk about it. Okay, you just ain't nobody mind reading. This ain't, my mind by osmosis. Like, you might have to have a series of conversations, chats about what needs to happen. Right.
Listen, that generosity is real, because let me tell you something.
Yeah, generosity is a goal.
This June, we've just had a conversation about how many graduations.
Yep.
Yeah. So like you said, your mother's birthday is in June. Next year, like, the graduations are coming. We had 8 or 10. We had some graduations. We had some weddings. It's a big birthday month for us. Her birthday's in June. His birthday's in June. Like, it was just birthday after graduation after whatever. And I sat down, I was like, 100 over here, 50 over here, 150, 50. And I was like, whoa, it turned out to be like a $500 month of
just that
gift stuff. You know what I'm saying? Just that. And it is a value of ours to be generous. I'm
definitely more so yours. And mine.
Yeah.
And mine.
My husband is generous in time.
Yes, exactly.
Like, I will hear him talking on the phone to people. He's very generous in time. I could not be on the phone for an hour. So his generosity goes another way. But I get it. But again, the communication about it and the conversation about it is what's more important than the actual money, I think.
And some of the communication could be easier if you have the values, your sticking points, all those things. If you like, we grew up at my house and we didn't eat for a week and a half, and so and so happened, and this thing, like, if you can articulate those things, I'm not saying it's always gonna help your case, or your plight, but at least people could come from a certain level of understanding, so you don't just feel like you doing this. But if you don't have that to articulate, then they can't help you, man. So
and that's all part of the relationship too. And there's some compromises that we'll have to make. So because of how he grew up, Keith always wants to be saving something. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I always want to be saving something if it has a purpose. I don't just want to save just to save. I want to save it for a thing, save it for an event. And he's like, it doesn't need a name. And I was like, it doesn't, and at a certain point you just compromise and say, if that makes you feel safe, then that's what we'll do.
Yeah.
I also think that's a male thing. I feel like my homeboys are like that.
You think so? Okay.
I say this, I'm like, four, just because. I'm like, okay, all right.
A rainy day could come. And say, for this is my favorite. A rainy day. And you're standing in the middle of a torrential rainstorm. But you still are like, nah, this money is not for it. I thought it was for a rainy day. It's kind of raining. I'm a little wet. Are you wet? I feel wet.
But that's for their definition of a rainy day.
Yeah.
Yours. And maybe you haven't talked about that. We're not trying to, this isn't male bashing, but I would like to have that conversation with any males that are willing to, because I was like, no, I'm hearing some similar patterns. Last couple questions. How would you define generational wellness as it relates to money? Like, how would you define that for people?
I think generational wellness, when it comes to money, is knowing what your attitude is toward money and how your attitudes and your mindset have led to your behaviors or your actions or your habits when it comes to money. So having that self-awareness, I think, is wellness. I think then the generational piece is trying to break down the stuff that you've recognized was unhealthy and not bringing that stuff forward. So one of the things that I'm trying to, I don't have kids, but I'm trying to normalize with people who have kids is talk about what you can and can't afford when it comes to college and what is going to be the kid's responsibility versus what the parent's responsibility is. Because I think that will help us with this whole student debt crisis. But I also think it'll help parents stay out of so much debt trying to help their kids go to school And the thing about debt is the more debt I'm in, the less I can do in terms of saving and setting things up generationally for the future, And so that's just one example of carrying things forward and being that example for the next generation. I think personally for me and for people who don't have kids, what generational wellness could look like when it comes to finances is talking to nieces and nephews and godkids and fake nieces and nephews about money, or helping them to save, or say you're saving for them. So showing them that generosity, showing them what saving looks like, or what it could look like to go on a trip debt free, or whatever the thing is. But I think all of those things kind of help us to be well financially for the generations to come. The other thing that we haven't talked about, though, too, is when it comes to estate planning. I think that's important as well, because that shows the future generations, oh, you were thinking of them, and it wasn't just about today.
Man, we have to do a chat just on that, though.
Yeah,
because it speaks to like lack of communication, because most people are afraid of death and what that means. And lack of planning. They ain't even thought about it, and if anything could happen, and then people are left with a bunch of debts that they don't from someone else, and that breeds resentment, and it's a whole thing,
and puts that generation even farther behind,
which we're already starting a deficit.
Yep.
The melon.
Yep. The other thing that I was thinking about, even with generational wellness, with the generation in your parents, what can you do at this point? So taking care of my sister who's dealing with dementia in the last few months, I have seen an opportunity where it's important for people who are in their they should have done it before, but if you haven't done it and in your 50s or 60s or whatever, you need to start looking at what long-term care could possibly look like for you, because people are living to 95 or, 90 or whatever, and you're not working at that age. So how are you taking care of your expenses and your medical bills and your nursing home care and your private care nursing, and all those things are, again, part of, like you said, what is your plan if you live to be 100? And we all think about what our plan is if we live to be 100 in terms of, I'm going to travel here, I'm going to do my bucket list, I'm going to do this. But what if you have health challenges and you live to be 100? What is that plan? What does that look like? So,
and to your point, this is a much larger conversation, but as someone who has a lot of college debt, it's a conversation about, is that, I think to your point, what our parents going to be responsible for, what our kids going to be responsible for. And I think being in the time where, like, just because you go to college, that don't mean that you're going to be out here making a lot of money. Like that level of thinking as a society went out the window really a long time ago. So are you a person that's even going to do well at a university, or do you need to go to community college or get a trade or do something else and then advance to that? Like, I just don't think there's a lot of, everybody's very trapped in a one mindset kind of thing. I'm like, it's kids that's making a whole bunch of money gaming right now, and you just think they in their room doing dumb stuff. And I'm like, no, that child is actually quite famous for them little YouTube videos or them gaming. Like, there's just a lot of ways to financially secure yourself. And so I'm not saying don't go to college. Like, it was cool.
Right, but it's not for everybody. And there's a way to do it that it's cheaper than, we both went to USC, which is hella expensive. But like,
that's crazy.
If I were doing it differently, or if I were talking to somebody today, I might say, community colleges are dang near free, and you can transfer. There's a way to do it that may not be as expensive.
Listen, because interest is terrible, which is why I've sort of opted out of the credit system. I realize I can't do that forever. I just don't believe in credit as a whole, but I'm also like, I'm not building any credit in that.
Well, it's kind of a scam.
Thank you. I just need somebody to say it out loud, because people be looking at me like are you trying to be on your Dr. Umar? And I'm like, no, I know that I know what it is. So I was like, I don't believe in it, but it is a tool. So
you got to play the game at some point.
I know.
But I don't think, I think we put a whole lot of stock into something and don't necessarily understand what it means.
Yeah. And I think I've always known what it means. And I'm like, nah. But I'm also like, you do need credit though. Like if you're going to do adult purchases at some point in your life, unless you got the cash, unless you just balling out of control.
Unless you have the cash, or you can, I wouldn't say be in a, I wouldn't advise anybody to be irresponsible at all. But if you don't have any credit, and you have a score of 0 or undetermined, you can still buy a house. It's called manual underwriting. You can get a loan for a house, but it can't be that your credit score is a 24 or 240. It has to be nothing because you don't have any debt or whatever. There's a way around it, is what I'm saying.
But again, I don't think we have those kind of conversations. You know what I mean? Just your credit is shot. You locked out a whole part of society. You can't do stuff.
Right, exactly.
Blah, blah. So anyway, there's just a lot of ways.
You can learn a lot from Dionna. I just learned that right now about the manual.
Well, then we gotta talk about collaboration, because I had never heard that either. And I'm like, interesting. And I know for a fact, like, our people are not getting that.
Unfortunately, we were locked out. We'll say the system for so long that we didn't learn. We didn't have that generational wealth, generational financial wellness either. And so we're catching up.
Right. I was like, we're not just pandemic catching up. We antebellum catching up.
Right.
Like we're catching up for multiple generations. So if I tell you I'm working on Juneteenth, don't try to Jedi mind trick me out of that. That's all I ask. Because I'm catching up because you steal. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Anyway, we got to talk about some things. Just collaborations. These are great things.
Yes, absolutely.
Before we ask you, probably the last question, I guess, Dionna, or do you want to ask the last question? And then
go ahead.
I want you to tell people what your services look like. Like what it looks like to work with you, and what would that mean?
Thank you. Love that question. So what I tell people is that what I can help you to do is get your finances in order, help you to come up with a plan, whether it's a spending plan or a get out of debt plan or a saving plan or all the things. I can also help you do that first part, the piece that we said you need to do before budgeting, which is figure out what your values are, what your philosophy is toward money. And then, of course, I can the way I feel the most successful is if I help you to figure out a process that works for you. You don't need me to do it every month. You actually can do it yourself and keep it going and make sure it's sustainable. I'm happy to help educate people about credit, even the home buying process to a certain extent. But what I'm not is I don't fix credit for you. I can tell you about the actions that you can take to help to improve your credit if that's the goal that you have. And then, like I said, help you to figure out a plan for paying off debt.
Sweet.
Or some people just need accountability. One of my clients right now is texting me once a week and like, hey, this is what I'm doing this week. I paid this off or whatever the thing is. And so some people just need accountability, which I'm happy to provide as well.
Big facts. Can they find you on IG? We'll make sure all the information is where it needs to be.
Yeah, so the easiest way to get a hold of me right now on Instagram, you can, with just my name, you can find some content that I've done a while ago. But if you actually want to get in contact with me, it's bridgecareeracademy@gmail.com. The bridge, just for context, was what I used when I was just doing career coaching. And so the idea is I want to help you to build a bridge between where you are now and where you want to be. And the same goes for finances. I want to help you to bridge the gap between where you are and where you want to be financially.
So say it one more time.
bridgecareeracademy@gmail.com.
All right.
Yeah, we'll make sure that's in the description box. So we have all of that so that we can get y'all the resources you need so that.
That's what we want.
you can reset your plan for your money and give it the proper.
Love it.
Last question. What does create generational wellness mean to you personally?
Not
For
just
me,
money, but overall.
Like overall, when you hear that term.
yeah. For me, it's, I mentioned this earlier, and we were talking about it earlier, but it's recognizing these things about ourselves that aren't well and figuring out how to get well, like in terms of mental health, emotional health, financial, and all the things. So that self-awareness, I think, is important. And then I think to a certain extent, I mean, there's some people that do too much, but like narrating that process for ourselves. We do so much in silence and behind the scenes, and some of that is appropriate. But in order for me to push that forward into the next generation, I need to be open and transparent about what I'm learning, and about what I'm doing to be healthy, so that people can see it. Especially for somebody like me, I don't have kids, but I have plenty of younger people in my life, who I can influence. And so helping them to think about themselves and be self-aware, and to teach them about finances, or teach them how to advocate for themselves or think about their careers, all of those things. I think to a certain extent, I have a responsibility for narrating or be transparent about what I have learned over time, and not just keeping that to myself. So I think, yeah, that's what generational wellness,
That's that narrating piece is.
Yeah, I wrote that down. I like that.
Very crucial. We've never had anyone articulate it quite like that. Narrating, but it's true, because it is. I think that is part of passing on generationally, is because it worked for you and you know what you did. But if you can't tell anybody, then they can't perpetuate it forward, and the cycle can't continue. So that's important.
Well, you think about our ancestors and the storytelling that was so important for sharing our history and what that has built in us.
Yeah.
And so I don't know that we talk about that enough anymore. I think we put our business out on the street a lot, but that's not what I'm talking about. I think the storytelling and the teaching piece, I don't know that we do as much anymore.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely part of it's a part of our heritage. I think we don't lean into it quite as much, but hot off the heels of Juneteenth, I hope that we would start to let that seep in, especially when it comes to topics like this, which is a generational skill that needs to be passed down in a healthy way. Like, there are some things I don't think there's anything we talk about that does need to be passed down, but this is like, as long as there will be currency, this will be a thing. So you should probably try to figure it out. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, what a great conversation.
You're welcome back anytime. If you're like, we need to do that estate plan, we'll be like, great, we can do a triple chat. If there's anything that you think about, you're always welcome. This platform is your platform. And we really appreciate you taking time. Y'all give it up for Mrs. Dionna Scales. Clap it up, clap it up, clap it up. All right.
Thank you for your truthful chat.
Evening.
You're so welcome.
All right.
All right, man. Listen, it's been a very
it was sobering.
It's been like, it's a very sobering.
Not bad sobering.
Like, but good. Like, I have peace.
It's a reset.
Like, I feel like, okay.
That's what we said we wanted to do. We wanted to have a reset. So that was a reset for me. Some things.
It's sobering.
I'm definitely gonna do them subscriptions. Like, that's first on my list, like this week.
I wish I
got to get rid of them.
I wish I could. There's so many things that I need for work purposes. Like,
there's
like,
some
I gotta watch this thing and I gotta do this thing, and I'm like, I just have to have it. But I'm not happy about it. Some of them I'm really not happy about.
I'm going through line by line, precept upon precept.
But yeah. But anyway.
All right, y'all.
It's a reset. It's a reset. So hopefully you heard some things, particularly assessing your family of origin when it comes to your money, right? Like Pam had that thing earlier, like, all of my earliest memories about money are around arguments. That could be a trigger and a problem for you. Journal about it. Write it down. Talk to your therapist about it. Prioritizing your values, right? So that you know what you value as an individual. Therefore, when you are receiving money, right, and you make a budget or the plan for your money, where is
your spending plan?
Your spending plan.
I like that.
Your spending plan. Where is this money going that you're receiving, and what job are you giving it to do? And then if after that it's doing the job and there's a little something extra, you know what I'm saying? You know, or if part of the job is you're gonna buy me them Nikes and it's gonna be great. Whatever your shebang is, we hope that you heard a lot of things, but there are really great practical tools here. So please listen to it again, watch it again.
Reach out to Dionna if you need to.
Tell a friend, and reach out to Dionna if you need to. All the info will be in the description box. Listen, man, it's been another great Truthful Chat. We'll have another episode about something next week. I'm not even going to hold y'all and be like, we know what it is. It'll come to us. Anyway, you will not know what that next episode will be. If you are not subscribed on YouTube, follow us on IG. We still have a Facebook page. We just can't go live from Facebook. We got to get our subscribers up. On June 10th, Mark Zuckerberg and friends decided to change that up, or whoever runs it now. I don't know. Anyway,
so if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe.
If you haven't subscribed on the Create Generational Wellness Facebook page, please do. But we're always on YouTube, okay, which is a platform for the people, always has been. So we hope that you'll come back next week, watch this again. If you're listening to us in the auditory universe, thank you for your time, your effort, your energy. Please rate, review, do all those cool things on Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you're listening to us at. Okay, we love you so much, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Bye, y'all.
Bye, everybody.
Peace. Happy Juneteenth forever. And shout out to the West. All day, every day.